Are you looking to expand your aesthetic practice and attract high-quality new patients? Discover the power of digital marketing in growing your practice with a personalized strategy session. Schedule your meeting with Ryan today by visiting www.businessofesthetics.org/MSM and take the first step towards transforming your practice with the potential of digital marketing.
You're invited to join our exclusive monthly webinar brought to you by the Business of Aesthetics community. Don't let this chance slip through your fingers. Secure your spot now for a game-changing experience. Register for free on our homepage at www.businessofesthetics.org and get set to transform your strategies.
Welcome to another episode of the Business of Aesthetics podcast, brought to you by our gold sponsors, Equa Marketing. Today, we're excited to welcome Lila Stone. Let's dive into her insights and experiences.
Welcome, everybody, to this live podcast session to celebrate our 200th episode for the Business of Aesthetics podcast series. This is amazing. We want to thank all of our listeners for being such a part of this amazing journey and for tuning in for this celebration. Tonight's topic is dissecting real-world wins and woes in the aesthetic practice ownership. Lessons learned. I want to thank our speakers today, who are also co-hosts of the Business of Aesthetics podcast series. Dr. Naren Arulrajah, board-certified facial plastic surgeon, founder of Face Leewood. Dana Zeitler, founder and CEO of Deluxe Med Spa. And Naren Arulrajah, co-founder of Business of Aesthetics Community and founder and CEO of Equa. Let's start with Dana. Dana, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background and your practice.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for being here or for inviting me to be here. I'm honored. My name is Dana Zeitler. I'm a physician assistant, owner of Deluxe Med Spa. We are in Naples, Florida. I've been a PA for over 30 years. I've been doing exclusively aesthetics for 15 years, practice owner for 7. And I am happy to announce that our business made the Inc. 5000 list this year. And we are getting ready to move into a brand new, larger space, hopefully around Thanksgiving this November. So that's my exciting news.
Lauren, your turn. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your practice, and your background.
Congrats, Dana. It's been a while since I've joined you, but that's a huge accomplishment. I am in the Kansas City area, facial plastic surgeon. I opened my business exactly 2 years ago. We have a surgery center and a clinic. I do some of the injections in clinic, as well as we have a nurse and a nurse practitioner. And then I'm primarily surgical. I specialize in cosmetic surgery of the face. So facelift, neck lift, blepharoplasty, those types of things. Yeah.
Okay, Naren, your turn. Tell us a bit about yourself, your background, company, and also starting the Business of Aesthetics community.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I'm Naren Arulrajah, and Lila, thank you for that question. Yes, I started this community, I think, 4+ years ago. And the idea was, COVID was happening and, live events were not working. So we wanted a place where, regardless of COVID or whatever else was going on in the world, people from around the world, mostly in North America, could come and learn from each other. So we started with a Facebook group. So even today, this broadcast is live on Facebook. So there are, thousands and thousands of people in that group, very, very active. It's a great place for anyone in the business of aesthetics to ask questions, get help. There are tons of experts. We try to moderate it and keep it, kosher. So, it's a good place and a, safe place for people to be. And then along with that, we have the podcast, we have the newsletter, we do events like this. So appreciate all of you, including Dana and Dr. Umstead, for being here and, being part of our community, supporting all of us with, just learning and growing. And I've learned so much from this. So thank you. And I also am the founder of Equa Marketing. As you can guess, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I like creating new things and doing new things. So always having fun.
Okay, so that's our panel. Let's go ahead and start on the hard stuff. First question is going to Dana and Lauren. we'll start with Dana. What is the biggest challenges you faced when starting your aesthetic practice? Is there anything you wish you had known now or wish you know when you started that you know now?
Well, goodness, that is a loaded question. And I think the biggest thing is realizing it's a lot harder to run a practice than it looks. My practice is my baby, and some days it's an 18-hour day. I'm sure Lauren as well woke up very early this morning to start her probably very long surgical day. And I wake up sometimes in the middle of the night dreaming about my to-do list, or did I forget to do something? And I don't think I did that when I was working for somebody else. So it's all I think about and I talk about. And sometimes my friends are like, do you talk about anything besides your practice? So it's definitely become an obsession, but in a good way. So I think if I had to do anything different, there's so much that I would do different because I'm learning every day and growing. And every time I say I fail forward. But realizing going in, it's very expensive. You don't realize all the little things, the insurance, the legal, just to become compliant is very expensive, in addition to staffing and all the other things that you know are going to be costly. And I think opening a practice, I didn't realize any of that.
Okay, Lauren, same question to you. What were the biggest challenges you facing your aesthetic practice, and what do you know now that you wish you'd known then?
I agree with Dana that I wake up in the middle of the night dreaming about big dreams, also thinking about my to-do list. So no, you're not alone. Or know that you're not alone. But I would say the thing that I adopt now from a mentality standpoint that I didn't adopt when I first started that I think would have been helpful is I have my surgeon and provider hat, and then I have my business hat. And I think that as surgeons and providers, we want to be 99% sure that the decision we make for a patient is 100% the correct decision for them. And so I think as we go through our medical training, we have the tendency to want to be extremely sure about something before we execute. I think with business and entrepreneurial endeavors, trying to be that sure about a decision before you execute will hinder you in terms of growth. And so I tell myself that, when I'm making business decisions and business growth planning, I have to be okay with a 60% sureness essentially in my mind. So with business, I think that mistakes are more acceptable. And if you're not making mistakes business-wise, you're not growing fast enough and you're not pushing yourself. Whereas, healthcare-wise and for the care that we provide for our patients, it's a much different approach. So I think that dividing those two things in my brain has really helped me over the past year or so.
I agree. I love that, Lauren. And during the day, I try to tell my staff, I'm in patient mode. I'm in the zone. Don't ask me business questions. My business stuff is either in the morning or at the end of the day, or I have admin. But when I'm in patient zone, I am totally focused about my patient and what I'm doing for my patient, and don't pull me in these other directions. So I love that. That's great advice.
Very good to have the time set aside and making sure your team knows when it's okay to bring you the what do we do questions and when it's time to talk patient care. Okay, Naren, your turn. With your experience working with aesthetic practice owners for over a decade, what are the 3 key pieces of advice you would give somebody who is thinking about opening an aesthetic practice?
Yeah, that's a great question. Obviously, I just some perspective on me. I kind of mentioned that I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've been doing it for close to 20 years, 17 years as the founder and CEO of Equa Marketing, which is a 250-person agency. So I guess I have a marketing bias because I believe that what's the word? You give you take somebody who loves hammers, and for him or her, everything is a nail. So I do have a marketing bias. So I'm going to give you some tips from a marketing perspective that I think you may want to lean into, just because I have a lot of experience working with aesthetic practice owners, and I know these things work. So first tip I would give you is, focus on Google reviews, right? Any one of you can do this. Doesn't cost you a cent. Obviously, you have to provide a great service and then know how to get happy clients to write a review for you. So that's something I would definitely focus on. And the metric or the goal I would give you is try to get 10 reviews a month. Simple number 10, and it could be plus or minus. If you're starting from 0, then it could be 5 in the first month, but try to get to 10 a month. That's a good number. Second thing I would also focus on is the nature of the review. Meaning, is it just 5 stars without any words, or 5 stars plus 2-3 sentences? I would rather have what I call love letter reviews or paragraph reviews, because Google loves it, of course, and also patients love it. So when somebody goes out of the way to take the time to explain why they love your practice, it goes a huge, long way, both for SEO purposes plus from a patient perspective. So I would start with Google reviews as the first thing. And, I'm biased, obviously, but I think if you're going to do marketing, one of the best ways to get patients at the lowest cost is SEO. It's not easy, it's hard, but I would lean into it and try to get really good at it. So you are dominating your market. Top 5% get all the business. So lean into that. And again, if this is your last year, then don't lean into it because it's a long game. But if you're going to be in this game for a while, then I would lean into it. Try to be in that top 5% who have an unfair advantage. And last but not least, there are some key metrics you need to pay attention to. Of course, one of the metrics is, what's your, production for the month, production per provider. So there are different metrics on the business side, but I'll give you 3 metrics on the marketing side that I would pay attention to if I were you. One is conversion rates, right? Like what % of the people who are calling your office, new patients, are actually booking an appointment. So if you get 100 new patient calls and 33% book an appointment, your conversion rate is 33%, right? Now, that's not good, but unfortunately, that's the average practice. The average practice today, only books 1 out of 3 new patients. Now, most of you, if I ask you, you'll say that's not me, but you won't know your conversion rate. So the only way for you to truly know it is to find out, listen to every single call, figure out from a math perspective, how many new patients called, how many booked. So you need to know your conversion rate, because if you are in that average camp, 33% are only booking appointments, you're going to miss out a lot. You're going to leave a lot of money on the table. Next one is cost of a new patient. You might be using newspaper, mailers, social media, SEO, Google Ads, you name it, different marketing options. You need to know on a per patient basis, per new patient basis, how much is that patient costing you? If, let's say, a TV ad costs you $1,000 a new patient versus SEO $50 a new patient, any smart person would say, why am I spending $1,000 to get a patient when I can get the similar patient for $50, right? Knowing that cost of a new patient from each marketing method allows you to not waste your money on the things that are the most expensive, instead focus on the things that are the least expensive. Again, from an SEO perspective, one of the metric I would focus on is how many keywords and phrases are showing up on page 1 or top 10 results on Google. The minimum is 100. Like if you are ranking for hundreds or more keywords on page 1 or top 10, you are now in the 5% club. The 5% club enjoys 95% of the free traffic. So those are some of the things I would lean into as you build your business, right? If I ask any one of you, most of you say the number one thing that bugs you or that keeps you up at night outside of employee related issues, it's going to be like the number of new patients you're getting. So these tips that I shared with you hopefully will help you with that.
Okay, so let's move on. We've heard our panel talking about staffing, we've heard them talking about finance, and we've heard them talking about marketing. These can be challenging in the initial phase. We've heard all the stories. So let's explore in detail how we can manage these challenges. Dana, let's talk about staffing. Considering the competitive nature of the market, how do you find and attract qualified staff with your aesthetic practice? What methods have you had the most success with? And on the flip side, let's throw in what's least successful.
So let's see. I think most young people these days are really looking for work-life balance, is what I have found. They really care about a positive culture. They want to come to work and have, positive work environment where they love coming to work. They want growth in the business. So they want to start out maybe at front desk or, being a medical assistant while they're going to night school and hopefully going into nursing. They want to get to that next step. So for me, and besides competitive pay, they want to be paid well for their time. They want benefits, or a lot of my staff that I have attracted want benefits. So I've worked really hard to provide medical benefits, dental benefits, a 401k, a matching, all of the things. And I've also really encouraged their personal growth and development. In my long-term medical assistant, last summer, we sent her to esthetician school, and now she's our esthetician. My current AMA that's been with me since that one became a esthetician has just gotten into nurse practitioner school. So she's going to be starting that next month. And I think if you encourage your staff to grow and get to that next level, you have happy staff, but you've got to pay them competitive salary and hopefully offer some benefits as well.
Okay. When it comes to their education, do you do anything? Do you encourage them? Do you offer any benefits for their education?
Yeah. So for my injectors, we have, I have a budget for the amount that we want to spend for aesthetic type training, but we do workshops. We had an improv workshop about 2 months ago, and it was just like a fun team building activity where I had an improv actor come in and walk us through doing some fun activities to learn how to work together better as a team. So improv is all about yes and kind of feeding off of each other to make that client experience the best it can be. So we do fun stuff like that, but we also, may block the last hour of the day and all go for a foot massage. So we do fun stuff. We do a staff day at a spa in lieu of a Christmas party. And that's very popular so that everybody gets to experience, a luxury massage or facial at one of the resorts close by. So I want to spoil my team, and I want them to love working for me and hopefully never leave me. And if they do leave me, hopefully maybe they'll come back in a different position.
Awesome. That's wonderful. If I didn't have an awesome job, I'd be, hey, but I happen to love my job.
Come to Naples, Florida. It's a great place to live.
No, I'm staying where I am. Okay, so Lauren, let's talk about some of the biggest challenges in staffing and how you've overcome them.
I will say I'm pretty green 2 years in. I think the biggest challenges for me have been training. I try to hire for the personality and not necessarily the qualifications, because I think a lot of positions, no matter which industry you're in, it's more based on your personality, your work ethic, your past experiences as a human that really create a good employee. And then a lot of the training stuff can be, or a lot of the specific job day-to-day things can be trained upon. I think that as I have gotten busier, it's harder for me personally to train our new team members. And so leaning on our existing team members to train the new folks, while I didn't quite write that into their job description when the existing folks, joined the team. I also think that being a small office right now, or a team of 9, I expect everybody to be, I do the laundry still, I do the dishes, I will occasionally vacuum the floors, and I expect everybody to pitch in where we're falling short one day. Fortunately, I've not had any major issues with staff, but I'm sure those will occur at some point. I will say that I was blindsided a little bit early on. My anesthesiologist decided to leave kind of last minute. So I had to scramble and find anesthesia coverage for the cases that I had scheduled for the next 8 weeks out. So I think always keeping your finger on the pulse in terms of the agency options in your community has been helpful in terms of last minute anesthesia coverage. There are a lot of like agencies out there that will provide MDs or CRNAs kind of last minute at a higher price, which is okay if you're, in a pickle. But I think being flexible with staff has also been helpful. People get sick, kids have emergencies, families have emergencies. And so I think just being open and human towards your staff is probably the best thing I try to do every day.
I want to expand upon that, Lauren, because that is something that I've learned only recently, to try to be a little more human. I've been accused of being a little bit of a robot because I'm kind of going room to room to room and seeing patients. And you really do have to learn to stop and ask people how they're doing, check in with them. How are your kids? And we're, thinking about our next patient or where we need to be or getting things done, and really slowing down to check in with your staff is important. The other thing I will throw in as a mistake or pitfall that I have made is not firing fast enough. When I have hired somebody that might be not the right cultural fit or the right personality for the team, I thought I could, train them, because you're like, oh, I can make this work. I can just give them a little bit of training. It's going to be fine. And I let it go on probably 6 months, and I lost 2 other staff members because of the negativity from that one person. So really learning to hire slow, asking all those questions and doing a really good vetting process. And then if it's not a right fit, just let it go quickly, get it out of there.
And I will say in training, I experienced some less than desirable atmospheres, like culturally. And so I think I'm uber sensitive to that. Like, I think first and foremost, I want our team to gel and vibe. And so I'm curious, when you say, moving forward, you want to be able to fire faster, how many chances do you give people? Because I'm still struggling with that. You obviously don't want to fire them at the first mistake or the first little whoops, but how do you decide when's the right time?
I think it in your gut. Like, I would come into work and I'd just be like, oh, I've told this person this 5 times. Or maybe I would hear some little whispers about grumbling about me asking to do something that I think is very clear. Because I think me as an injector, and I'm sure you as a surgeon, I'm a little OCD about how I like things done. And it's very clear in my office. But at the same time, people need to be trained. So you feel it. It's just like a gut thing. And if you start feeling that, you have some conversations, you check in. And if your manager says it's not the right fit, you trust them.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Couple of comments on firing. I suck at it. I don't fire people. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing.
You're like, they stay with you forever, no matter what.
I just can't fire people. I don't know why, but I'm trying to get better at it, at least for key hires, like the important, like we have a large team, 260 something now. So at least for the key people, if I don't get it right, I'm trying to be like much more deliberate about it, because the downstream impact is like massive, right? Like your direct level person and they don't work out, just everybody suffers. Like that area suffers, the people under them suffer, the people who work with them suffer. So I'm trying to get better at it. The other things I do, and I guess I have the luxury of doing it because we are not in front of patients day in and day out, where you have to be like on your game. We work from home. We do like typically our people do 1 or 2 things and really are good at it. So we try to find what they're really good at and let them do just that. So for example, if I'm a writer and that's all I love doing, there are some people who just want to write. So give them those opportunities. So kind of leaning in on like what they're really good at and helping them design a role that makes up of the things they are good at. We use tools like Kobe, which is, different types of tests to kind of figure out how your brain works. And once you understand how somebody's brain works, you can predict what they're going to say before they even say it. Like, for example, there are some people who are very detail oriented. So if you can't answer every question they would ever have, they won't start on something. Like, you have to clarify every question and answer every question. Once you know that about the person, you don't see that person as, oh, he or she's trying to stonewall me, or they always say, no, it's just, that's who they are. Like, that's just how their brain works. They are detail oriented. They need everything figured out before they do anything. So on the other hand, you can also lean in on those trends. So let's say if you need somebody to do your books, you want somebody who's super detail oriented, who's going to pay attention to every detail. Otherwise, you will have messy books at the end of the year and you're going to be in big trouble. So kind of, again, using tools to find out how people's brain works, what they love, what they're good at, and leaning into it. And I kind of break the mold too. Like, typically they'll say, oh, manager must do this, this, and this. In my definition, no. If the manager doesn't want to do that, or that person doesn't want to do that and doesn't have the capability, is there somebody else who could do that? And then like 1 + 1 = 3. So, I mean, I'm still learning after 20 years, so I don't think I have all the answers, but these are some of the things I have found to be helpful to me.
Yeah, we're going to start doing DISC assessments on our hires. Either it could end if, because my partner's husband said he started doing DISC. He's got a staff of like 70. And he said once he started doing DISC assessments, and if they're above a score, I don't know the scoring, but I'm just throwing this out there because we haven't done it yet, a score of 7, they're just not going to be hired. So, but I think leaning into people's strengths, and if that's not a strength, they don't go in that role, really makes absolute sense. So that's really good advice. I love it.
Okay, so let's move into financing. We heard you talking about that earlier. So, Dana, what are some of the biggest financial considerations for running an aesthetic practice?
So I like to budget. So I grew my practice extremely slow, but I try to budget by percentages. I keep it super simple. So I like, of my total revenue, 30% of the total revenue, I budget for staffing. 40%, I'm in aesthetic and injectable. So 40% goes to cost of goods. 10% goes to other things like warranties and rent and my insurance. And then I hope for a 20% profit margin, which I 99.9% of the time reinvest in my business. I have yet to really, even after 7 years, really use that profit for other than reinvesting in whether it's equipment or my new build out or my new building. That's budgeting and financing. I bootstrapped my business. So my husband had a good income when I first started. So I had the luxury of having a little bit of time where I was able to take a very small loan of about $100,000 and start my business. I did purchase a laser within my first year, which worked out very well for me. I know sometimes people say don't purchase lasers, but I'm a laser guru and it worked out beautifully for my practice. I also love to look ahead. So I think about, well, where do I want to be in 10 years? So let's say I want $10 million in revenue. Well, then that means in 5 years, I want $5 million in revenue. And in 3 more years, I want to be at 3 million. So that means, by next year, I need $1 million. So what do I need to get there? 250 per quarter, 1 and a quarter per month. And then I try to think, okay, well, how many providers do I need based on, how much revenue they can produce to get me those types of numbers? And, what's a $10 million practice look like versus where I am now? And you also, now that I've been doing this 7 years, I understand it's not like an injector will immediately be making $500 or $1 million a year in revenue. It's going to take them about a year of training and then about 3 years to be breaking even and making money, and then probably really fully grown injector at 5 years. So it is a long process. It's not an A to Z thing if you're good.
Okay. That's a lot of very good information. Thank
Sorry,
you.
that was a lot.
That is the things our audience needs to hear. And I'm sure you're probably going to be getting a lot of questions following up on that. So be warned. That's a problem with giving too much good information. Everybody wants more of it. Okay, we're greedy. All right, so Lauren, what are some of the practical ways to identify and control overhead costs in aesthetic practice without compromising quality? What are the strategies you've implemented in your practice?
I think as a surgeon, when we start operating, our mentors tell us you learn where you can go fast and where you can go slow. And you have to go slow in some of the more careful zones that you're operating in, and you can go faster in the more safe zones of the face and neck. And I think my approach to the finances has been somewhat similar. There are things that I know that I have to spend money on, just like insurance, malpractice, property liability, all of those things. And then I think that there are areas that you can save on that won't really have any impact on patient care. For example, when I started my surgery center, I bought a lot of our equipment refurbished, like certified refurbished, which saved me tens of thousands of dollars. It wasn't the easiest way to go about it, but it definitely took more time to do a lot of vetting in terms of my anesthesia machine, my cautery machine. I searched through Facebook, and I actually got really lucky and came across a retiring surgeon who was basically liquidating his surgery center. Now, I had to drive across state lines with a huge trailer, and it was a lot of work, but I saved a bunch of money. So I think you have to recognize the areas in your business where you have to spend, and then the areas of the practice where you have an opportunity to save money on certain things. And I certainly don't think that staff you should ever cut corners with. I think that, just like Dana was talking about earlier, I try to be intentional about paying my staff more than probably what is normal in the Midwest area that we're in. We offer full benefits with health insurance, vision, dental. We recently started a retirement program that they can opt into. So cutting corners, and I hate to say even cutting corners, but being more frugal with some of the more extraneous things over the more important things.
Yeah, don't nickel and dime your staff, at bottom line.
Yeah, a couple of things you said that really resonated with me, Lauren, is this idea of going slow and going fast. And it is something I struggle with. And I have a coach, and so I'm trying to do something I've never done before, like hire senior people at a director level and come and join the company. And the coach that I have, he's a former CEO. He comes from the sales side of things, so he really understands, like how to grow a business, and he's done it for a long time. He's kind of semi-retired, helping me out. So he said, read the book, Thinking Fast and Thinking Slow. And he said, there are some things you really need to slow down. Like you really, really need to slow down. Those of you who don't know who wrote that book, he's a Nobel Prize winner. He passed away recently, Daniel Kahneman. He talks about humans, we are not motivated by the gain. We are more motivated by fear. So if you tell somebody, okay, if you take this pill, there's less chance of you dying, versus you tell the same person, if you take this pill, there's more chance of you living, the guy who argues in terms of not dying will sell the same pill a lot more than the guy who argues about living longer, right? Just we are like motivated by fear. It's the survival instinct in humans. Anyways, he's a genius. You should read up and study up on him. He wrote a great book. So I read that book. It's a painful book to read. I need three-line bullet points. He's an economist, so he goes into details. But it's a good point, though. Like some places you have to slow down. And I love what you said, like even in surgery, some places you can go fast, some places you better go slow. So really know what those places are, where to go fast and where to slow down, where to get help, where to think twice, and then cut once and get a support team to help and mentor and coach you and guide you. Because those things you don't do right could cost you a lot. Like let's say in my case, hiring somebody senior and I get it wrong, I could lose an ear. And my entire plan is now behind an ear. Everybody's impacted because of it. So I had to go through 100. I mean, we went through 160 resumes. We interviewed 17 people. We narrowed it down to 7. It's just, we went through this painful process, but that's what you have to do sometimes, for like critical things. I'm using that as an example. But in many cases, you don't have to do that because it's not that consequential and you can go slow.
Okay, Naren, a question for you. Marketing is a major issue when it comes to your budget, something you've got to have, but it can be a major line item in your budget. What do you advise to do about budgeting wisely when it comes to the marketing? What about the return on investment?
Yeah, I think one of the metrics I talked about in my last point is how much does a new patient cost from each marketing source? And I would argue, I've asked the same question of a lot of doctors. 95% of doctors have no idea. Practice owners / doctors, they know some marketing works. They just don't know how much does each marketing work. So you need to know. So put tracking. So if you're doing 3 different types of marketing, you need to be able to tell me at least to a dollar amount, this cost me so many dollars a new patient call. This cost me so many dollars a new patient calls. Once you know that, then start investing in the things that are the least effective, least costly, and most effective, right? Because if you can get the same job done for a fraction of the fee money, then you should do that. But the other thing I want to also talk about is knowing the pros and cons and what to use when and stuff like that, right? So for example, Google Ads would be great for a startup practice. Why? You need patients quickly. So even though the patients are much more expensive through Google Ads, but it's a good way to, instead of buying a practice and spending a lot of money, a good way to create that initial set of patients, right? But why would you spend Google Ads money, in year 3 or year 4? Because now it's going to cost you 4 or 5 times more than SEO. So really knowing when to use what, would be something I would focus on. In terms of the ROI, you asked me a very direct question. What's the most cost-effective way to help myself? Google reviews, I would say, is 0 cost. Just you need to master how to get 10 or more reviews every month and love letter reviews. And you need to master how do you get the team to work with you on that and support you. Again, we have done episodes on this, so we can, if anyone is interested, we can share like insights on exactly how to get 10 or more reviews every month. SEO, I think if you are in practice for a long time, I would lean in, and for a couple of reasons. One is it is the lowest cost. And the second is somebody else can do it for you. Like social media, it's awesome, but unfortunately you have to do it. You as the practice owner, because it's your brand. It's like Oprah is built around Oprah, right? Oprah can't build Oprah show without Oprah. Because the entire thing about social media is as a human being, that person does things to help others, and he or she has a fan base, so you have to be the star. So SEO is one of those things somebody else can do, and it's still cost effective. Obviously, finding the right partners, doing the right things, knowing how to measure success, those are all things. So I would also invest in like understanding things, right? Like I love that analogy, right? Let's say you are in New York and you have a map of Chicago or an old map of New York. For those of us who still use maps, you will understand what I'm trying to say. You will get lost. Doesn't matter how hard you try, right? Because your map is telling you to go here, but things have changed and you end up getting lost. So like understand things. So spend some time to understand, marketing, business. What are the key things? How does the world work? Even understand the business model. How does Google make money? How does, Instagram make money? How does Facebook make money? How does TikTok make money? The minute you understand that, you know how they're thinking about things. And then you can play the game in a way where they get what they want. They will always get what they want. They're so massive and big, but you also get what you want.
Okay, that's great advice. Okay, so let's continue talking marketing. Dana, what marketing channels and techniques have proven most effective in attracting new patients to your practice?
So I've kind of almost entirely built my practice on word of mouth, but I absolutely use my website. A lot of times patients will get referred by other patients, but they want to vet you through your website. So I do think, my website is critical to reflecting my brand and my personality. I also think it's really important to utilize social media. I utilize social media. I started doing social media more to attract, really to speak to my current client base versus speaking to new patients. But by an indirect result of my goal, which was to have a direct communication on a daily basis to my current patients, the algorithm automatically feeds, I think, to friends of your current patients who happen to be a lot like your current patients because they're their friends. And so, like, Naren was saying, it's using the algorithm to benefit you. But one of the best things that I did early on in my practice was get every person, or try to get every person who walked through my door, to become a follower on my social media. And that was very valuable. I offered them a small discount, like $10, to pull out their phone, like and follow me, or like a post, or do something. They get $10 off their treatment. And those followers, you don't need 20 million followers. You need your followers to be loyal fans, which these people are already seeing me as a patient, so they already like me. And they tend to not unfollow you because they like you. And then you have a direct communication with them. So the next time they come in, they're like, oh, I saw you talking about a lip flip. What's that? Or, oh, I didn't know you could do Botox for underarm sweating. So for me, that worked really well for my practice. And you don't need followers in New York. They're not going to come walk through your door and buy something from you. You need followers that are local and hopefully friends of friends.
Okay, Lauren, same question. What marketing channels and techniques have worked effectively for you to get patients to your practice? And you're muted.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. A lot of thoughts on this. So I went really big. I built a lot of people told me I was crazy to do that, but I documented the end.
Lauren, we lost you for a second. Can you repeat what you just said?
Oh, sorry. So right out of fellowship, I started my own practice. I decided to build like an 8,000 square foot building with a surgery center and go totally solo and all cosmetic because I was going to play the long game. I knew that it wouldn't be profitable, so to speak, early on, but I built the practice that I wanted ultimately. And one of the single best decisions I made in the very early parts of my practice was to document that entire process. I documented everything on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. And I tell patients, or I tell others, that I am totally unbiased in terms of what platform I post on. I could care less. I go to where there's underpriced attention. So what is the emerging platform where there's not a lot of people posting, but there are a lot of people consuming? 3 years ago, that was TikTok. And TikTok has been wonderful to me. I really haven't spent $1 on it. And it's been the single best grow of my practice. But I documented the building of the building, the licensing of the surgery center, growing our team, the ups and downs of being a young surgeon, of being a mother, of staff struggles. And I think that it makes you seem more human to patients and potential patients. Obviously, I share before and afters, and I think those are good for prospective patients. But I think the best thing I do is I just get on and provide education in terms of video format. I just do it myself. You get pretty facile at it. And I would say that for people who are looking to grow their business and are intimidated by social media, a few things that I tell myself is that no one cares what you look like. So you shouldn't care either. Your post should not be 100% perfect, because if it is, you've spent too much time editing it. The average consumer will spend a few seconds deciding if they even want to watch it or not. Volume is more important than perfection when it comes to posting. And so posting 3 decent posts a day is better than 1 perfect post a day. These are all my opinions, of course. And then cross-posting all of that across different platforms. So I will make videos today. I will make videos through TikTok because I find their software to be the easiest to navigate. Then I will download that video without the watermark, and I will post it on Facebook and Instagram. So I make one video and it gets posted across 3 platforms. And usually that takes me about 10 minutes, which is a great return on my time investment. And I think that just educating people about things that I commonly get asked is where I try to use, or how I try to come up with things to talk about. So for instance, if I have a consult and a patient asks kind of a complex question, I will jot that down throughout the day. And then that afternoon before I leave, I'll make a quick video about, hey, what's the difference between a brow lift and a blepharoplasty? You can also repost content. So even if you made a video about that a year ago, who cares? Just make another video about it. If people are still asking you that, and it's a topic that's a little bit more complex, it's beneficial for you to continue talking about it. And I find that not only does it bring patients into my practice, it also makes my consults much easier, because patients have already consumed my content to the point where they kind of know what I'm going to tell them. An even further extension of that is I talk about my own complications and potential complications of different treatments I do. And so when we do have an unfortunate complication after surgery, or rarely after a non-surgical treatment, I say, well, we have this going on. And they're like, oh, yeah, I've seen a video on it. I know that you know how to treat it. We're going to just take it one day at a time. And so it makes the easy interactions easier, and it makes the hard interactions easier. I would say that aside from social media, I really haven't paid a whole lot. I've not paid for like SEO. I did take out a billboard for about 6 months in the Kansas City area, which did pay for itself ultimately, but it wasn't a huge profit generator. But I waited to do the billboard until I had some degree of brand recognition in Kansas City and over 150 Google reviews. I think that if I had put up that billboard day one, it probably wouldn't have been as successful, because my thought was, oh, they see this beautiful before and after on the billboard. They take out their phone and, they Google the office name. And so waiting about 1.5 years to do that, we had already gained ourselves some street cred, so to say. But I'm kind of neutral on the billboard, and I'm personally glad that I haven't put a ton of money towards print or TV ads. I don't think that right now that those are well priced.
I had a question for you. Again, this is a general question. You probably know other doctors like you. I was talking to Dr. Rod Roderick. I don't know if you know him. He's a famous plastic surgeon. And he said, like, he's kind of older, but he has a 1.5 million, followers on Instagram or something. So he's pretty popular. So he has been at it for a while. And he said one of the things he would tell his younger plastic surgeons is just get out there and start creating content, put yourself out there. Both of you, in my experience, working with 500 doctors, are unicorns. What I mean is there's one in 100 of you, like, who put themselves out there, create content, as opposed to, expect somebody else to do it, right? It never works. I mean, this, you're living proof. You can't outsource this. You have to do it. But on the other hand, in your case, Lauren, like, you didn't go to medical school to become a social media, Marvin. Neither did Dan. I'm sure you didn't do what you did to become this, celebrity social media person, right? So I guess 2 questions. In your experience, like in my experience, 95% of practice owners don't want to do this, what you're doing. Is that common? And you see that a lot? Or like, you're saying things are changing and more people are becoming like you and willing to like share everything, like your struggles and everything with the whole world? Because it's also a mindset shift, right? A lot of people are private and they don't want others to know, especially when things are not great. We all like to brag about how wonderful we are, but
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you want to do day to day. I think that I put every single one of my eggs in this basket. I went all in. I had no backup plan and no plan B. And so I felt that it was a part of my job to market myself, because if I didn't, I was going to drop my basket full of eggs and then I'd be SOL. And you look at not only you in the business, but also the team members that you have working there for you. And it was this huge weight on my chest. And the only thing that made that weight lighter was to do marketing and see the leads start to come in. And it's definitely a positive reinforcement. So even, still today, I still watch our leads coming through our website, and I force those leads to pick a drop down of how they heard about us. And when they say Facebook or TikTok, I still to this day say, oh, I need to go post on Facebook. Oh, I need to go post on TikTok. It just shows me that flame is burning brighter that day. And so I need to go pour some more gasoline on it. And it doesn't matter if I want to do it. It's part of my job as the owner, founder, payroll person to make sure that, I take care of the team and I grow the business. So I consider it part of my job.
Any comments, Dana?
No, I agree 100%. We have to take, I also have this new space coming, and it's millions of dollars, and there's no quitting. Like, it's your responsibility, or, you're going to sell it to somebody else and fold. And I'm a fighter. I think Lauren's a fighter. And just from listening to her, you fall in love with her. So she's got that genuine human personality. I'm a little bit more robotic, but I think
I'm in your camp, Dana, so you have company.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. But I also think, Lauren made a good point. They find her on TikTok, they find her on Facebook, but they still vet through the website. So you still need your website.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, let's continue on. Naren, in your experience, what are the biggest mistakes aesthetic practices make when it comes to marketing? And what's your advice to avoid them?
Yeah, I think self-awareness is key. And I think Lauren and Dana are the people, they'll do whatever it takes. And even if that means learning new skills, doing things they never planned on doing. So I would say, that's great. But at the same time, some of us are better at certain things than others. So if that's not you, I think you still need a marketing plan. Think through, how you're going to do your marketing. Google reviews, I think, is easy. So do that. And if SEO is something I think you want to be strong in, you want to be in the top 5% who show up for anything and everything people are looking for in your area, then I would lean into that. So for example, Botox near me, you should be at the top 5 results. Any keyword that's linked to the type of services you offer, and there are hundreds of them, you want to be in the top 5 or 10. Why? People are lazy. If they keep seeing the same person show up again and again on Google, like 93% of people in the US use Google as their search engine. So any questions they have for anything they need, they just Google it. So I think there's a huge opportunity there. So I would lean in on SEO. The only caveat is it'll take time. You will at least take a year to see results, meaningful results. So if you're not patient, if you're not willing to stick with it, then you will be disappointed. It's not going to be quick. I think even social media, to get to both your state levels, I bet it's not overnight. You had to work on it for a long time, right? So anything worth doing in marketing will take time. So you just have to stick with it, dig in, and just dig in and keep going. The way to get into the top 5% of so the way the free traffic works is in the social media world. 1% get all the free traffic. That's Lauren and Dana. And in the SEO world, 5% get all the free traffic. So again, can you get into that 5% or 1%? So for SEO, it's really like link building, Lighthouse Co, original content, NAP, Google reviews. There are 6 things Google cares about. If you just keep working on those 6 things or have your team work on it, you will end up ranking for hundreds of keywords. So just remember that and focus on it. So be self-aware. Either go all in like Dana and Lauren on social media, or have some other strategies, because marketing is key.
Okay, next question. I know we're coming up on the hour, but we've just got a couple more to get through. So I want you all 3 to answer this. We'll start with Dana. Looking back, what is the single most important strategy you used to achieve success in your business?
I think focusing on your why, really like what are you doing? What are you trying to do? So for me, it's all about providing, the most remarkable experience I can for my patients, being honest with them, really defining my core values, which is I want people to look natural and normal and beautiful for themselves and refreshed. I want them to leave feeling confident. So that is my goal. That's my why. Of course, I would like to make a living doing that, but really, if you put the interests of your patients first, even if that means saying no to them, or if they're not the right patient for you and what you want to achieve, it's okay that not every patient is for you. There is a different provider for them. So, I think my patients trust me, and they come in, and I've had patients for years and years and years because they know I'm going to be honest. They know I'm going to say no if I don't think the treatment is right, or they know that I'm going to say, you know what, you need a blepharoplasty to achieve the result that you want, or I really can't do that with Botox. You need a facelift. Go for a consult. And they trust that I'm going to have their best interests at heart. And so we have a trusting relationship. And that's my business strategy.
Okay, Lauren, the same question. Looking back, what's the most important strategy used to achieve your success?
I think quality patient care. We can talk about profit margins and marketing and all of these things, but at the end of the day, if you're not providing quality patient care, I think you yourself will be underwhelmed with your performance every day. And then I think long term, you will suffer, because there are so many wonderful people out there doing what we do, that if you're not doing good work, that people will figure that out and go somewhere else. Very similar to what Dana was saying, starting with your why. If anyone on the call has not read Start with Why by Simon Sinek, I would highly recommend that book. That was probably one of the best books I read when I was formulating my business plan and kind of my overall goals for things.
Okay, Naren, you have over a decade working with aesthetics. What is your biggest piece of advice when looking back to have that success?
Yeah, I think, this is a few things I learned. I think that applies to every business. One is success is many, many years and decades in the making. So those of you who are like, I have 0 revenues and I want to do $1 million 3 days from now, it doesn't exist. You can talk to these ladies. A lot of hard work, a lot of pain, a lot of struggles early on. So dig in for the long term and just keep chugging away. So the way I did it is, like, I had a vision long term, but every year I would think about, where do I want to be at the end of the year? And then I think, like Dana talked about, then breaking it into pieces and just working on it. Like, success doesn't just happen. You make it happen. I mean, like Elon Musk and rockets and SpaceX, it didn't happen. Somebody crazy enough said, I'm going to figure this stuff out, like reusable rockets, bigger and bigger and bigger, and step by step by step. You just have to kind of work on it day in and day out. Yeah. And then you'll win. So that's one lesson I learned. And the second thing I learned is sometimes we overcomplicate things. Success is not about doing 300 things. It's about doing 10 things really well. So what are those 10 things? And they just get better at it and better at it and better at it, right? Like the ones who are so caught up on the 300 things go around in circles. The ones who figure out what those 10 things are and then just keep leaning into those 10 things and getting better at it all the time, just keep growing every year. And finally, I think sometimes you have to do the things you don't want to do just because the buck stops with you. So I think you just have to be realistic about that. Like if you want everything to be just the way you want and no headaches and no problems, you're in the wrong career, right? Entrepreneurship is not easy. I think it's depending on the type of firm you're building, I think Elon Musk described it. It's like chewing glass and looking into the abyss at the same time. I don't think it's that bad for us. We're not building a SpaceX, but it's not easy. You have to just dig in and just know it is part of the game. Like things not going your way and just picking yourself up and just keep coming back.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go to last thoughts. What advice would each of you give our audience tonight? And most importantly, how can our attendees get in touch with you? Lauren, let's start with you.
I cut out for just a second. To get in touch with me, I'm on all the platforms. My last name is weird, so it's pretty easy to find. Lauren Umstead. Our practice is called facelywood.com. What was the first part of that question?
Any last minute advice? Anything we haven't covered today that you really think our audience should know?
I mean, I think the best thing to bet on is yourself. If you really believe that you can build the business that you want to build, then you should do it. I think that why it is really hard, and I'm chewing glass tonight, it's also the most rewarding thing that I've ever done. And I think that really all hard things are very rewarding on the flip side. And I also think that, people talk about mentorship. I think choosing your mentors wisely is important and learning who to ignore is important. Because a lot of people told Elon Musk no, and that he was crazy, and look everything that he has done.
Okay, Naren. Oh, and Lauren, our team put your contact info in chat. So everybody save that. Contact Lauren with your questions. Naren, your turn.
Yeah.
What are your last thoughts?
Yeah, I think just keep the fact that you're here and on a evening doing this shows you're here for the right reasons. You want to learn, you want to grow, you want to make your future better than tomorrow. And that's a great sign for an entrepreneur, because at the end of the day, the buck stops with you. So, and you're right, there's nothing like the feeling when you have arrived. I love that movie. What is that? In Pursuit of Happiness. Is that the one where they spell happiness? It's just that one moment, the brief moment where he feels happy when he gets that job. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the movie. I don't want to ruin it for people, but it's a great movie. And I think it's worth it, like the pain, because most people who do this, they love what they do and enjoy the journey. So enjoy the learning. So when things don't go your way, ask the question, what did I learn from this? How can I grow from this, right? So then it's not a failure or a pain, but rather a learning moment. Just think of it like expensive tuition. Instead of paying Harvard, you're paying your mistake a lot of money to teach you something. As long as you learn from it and you grow from it, it's wonderful. Now, on the marketing side, I did talk about SEO. So if you want to figure out where you stand with SEO, I recommend booking a marketing strategy meeting. And of course, Laila has been helping us for the last 13 plus years with this. So she's an expert. So I recommend booking a comprehensive marketing strategy meeting to see how you're doing with SEO, how you're doing with marketing in general. Our team will spend a few hours researching where you stand versus your competition, and then give you a report card and a game plan. So it's a worthwhile 60 minutes spent with Laila. So the link is businessaesthetics.org/MSM. Anything you want to say about this meeting, Laila? businessaesthetics.org/MSM.
It's a very comprehensive meeting. It's an hour meeting, but there's hours of prep that go into it, finding out your strengths, your weaknesses, where you're at, and a very in-depth conversation looking ahead. Where are you today? Where are you going? What are your plans? Are you moving into that new big facility and bringing on more people that you need to get busy? Are you in the wind down phase? Are you trying to build up because you're in the last few years of your career and you're looking to build up the practice to make it bigger? Is it something, if you're in the last year, is it really worth it? So let's find out where you're at, where you're going. It's a complimentary meeting. And at worst, it's an hour of your time. Okay, Dana, your turn. Last thoughts.
All right. Well, you guys did such a great job. I'm just going to reiterate, every day, sometimes not every day, but almost every day, I'm eating some humble pie and learning from my mistakes, failing forward, hopefully, trying to manifest that it's an opportunity for me. So, trying to improve, be better tomorrow than you are today, reading books. I can't wait, this Thinking Fast and Thinking Slow. I wrote that one down that you shared. So learning to pivot, all of this is wonderful advice. And we're in this together. I think the Business of Aesthetics Facebook group is extremely valuable for business owners. Listening to the Business of Aesthetics podcasts and other podcasts like that is super helpful. You can learn a whole lot. And attending webinars like this. Oh, and where to find me? I'm on Instagram. I'm on Naples Beauty Injector. My website, they just posted on there. I do private trainings for injectors. So that's my new thing that I'm working on. If anybody ever wants to come train with me, I'd love to have you.
Okay. I want to thank all three of you for your time tonight. You have been awesome guests, and there has been so much. Well, one is posted, this was encouraging. I wanted to quit today.
Aww.
So that is the kind of changes these podcasts make for our listeners. So thank you so very much. You just saved somebody today. So thank you all three so very, very much. I also want to thank our audience. Tonight was a great celebration. 200 episodes is quite the accomplishment. Without our audience, our listeners, this wouldn't be here. There wouldn't be any reason to do 200 episodes if you weren't listening. So thank you so much. And to anybody listening that is interested in possibly being a guest on the Business of Aesthetics podcast, our team's going to put a link. Reach out to us. We love hearing success. It's late. Forgive me. It's 9:00 here. Success stories and where you're going, how you've gotten where you are. So reach out if you think you have a story that would be great for the Business of Aesthetics podcast. Thank you so much, everybody. Does anybody have anything else they wanted to share?
Thank you. I really appreciate you, Lila, for everything. And of course, thank our audience. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Thank you for joining us this week on the Business of Aesthetic podcast series, brought to you by our gold sponsor, Equa Marketing. Would you like to join our growing group of aesthetic industry experts and get featured on the Business of Aesthetics podcast? Or do you know someone who would love to share their strategies for growth in the aesthetic business, providing quality patient care or their clinical expertise? Head over to www.businessofesthetics.org podcast show and apply to be featured as a guest on the show. Remember to subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Amazon Music, or wherever you listen. If you would like to engage with today's speakers or any of our past speakers, join our Facebook group or LinkedIn group by searching for Business of Aesthetics. Thank you, and have a great day.